This is the Sam Sorbo Show.
Okay, and welcome back to the show. I'm joined by a young woman who was born behind the Iron Curtain, so she knows better than many of us the value of freedom of speech. And she tried to hold a Draw Muhammad Day event in Canada's capital. It wasn't actually limited to Muhammad. It was basically a free speech celebration. And she was shut down. I'm welcoming to the show Alexandra Belaire. Welcome.
Hello, how are you?
Good, thank you. So, first of all, tell me a little bit about why you moved to Canada and why you decided to have this event. How's that?
Well, I was born the daughter of a political dissident in Czechoslovakia, and, it is not an easy life to live in a country where freedoms are oppressed and where freedom of speech is denied. And when I came to Canada, I was very happy. I am very happy being a Canadian. I love Canadian values. And, this is the 800th anniversary of the Magna Carta, which enshrines fundamental freedoms such as the freedom of speech. And the longer I live here, the more I see how this freedom of speech is being eroded on pretexts of from all kinds of directions, and that is just wrong.
Yeah. Okay. So you decided to do. You saw what happened in Garland, Texas, right? Was that your impetus?
I had decided to do this long before what happened in Garland, Texas. It was following the Charlie Hebdo massacre in Europe, in France, that I thought we have to do something. I'm not sure if you're aware, but last October there was a terrorist who in Ottawa shot a guard who was standing, a ceremonial guard who was standing at the War Memorial, and then ran up the Parliament Hill. So I was thinking, this has happened to Charlie Hebdo. We've had shooters right here in Ottawa. We have to raise awareness of this, and we must stand up to people who would use violence to usurp our freedom of speech from us.
Right. And so you went to the the powers that be and said, I want to set up a table and...
To the people who are in charge of the events on the Hill. I followed all the rules. I applied when they told me to apply. I met with all the security people. At one point I was told that everything was ready. The permit would be granted if any security concerns would be taken care of. So I met with the protective policing people. I moved the location to a spot on the Hill where it would be easier to police, to make sure that should any violence occur, the police would be able to have it well in hand and no bystanders would be in danger. I moved the timing to make sure that other events weren't impacted, and they told me, yeah, sure, it's a go. So I started publicizing it, only to have a few hours before, less than 24 hours before the event, to get a phone call from the powers that be to tell me that no, the permit is not being granted, and that no such event is going to happen.
And the funny thing is, they treated you like, it was kind of like pulling the rug out from under you, because they treated you as if the permit was going, everything was according to plan. They came to you at one point and asked you if you would consider moving the table because of some location thing, and they brought you the whole schematic and I thought it was fascinating that you said, I want to be somewhere along the route that the killer took, because I want this to have a symbolic significance. And so they brought you the schematic and they showed you where you might position your table and stuff. And it's a table. You're not expecting 800,000 people to show up. It's a table.
No. That's right, just a table with some art supplies so people can draw a caricature of any political or religious figure they want to, just to prove that we still have the right to express dissent.
Well, you've proved something else, haven't you?
Unfortunately, I have.
You've proved that you don't have the right.
And that our right can be taken away by bureaucrats who simply only approve speech that they agree with.
So where does that leave you?
Well, I'm going to have to organize something else. I have been contacted by organizations because I'm just a stay-at-home mom. I'm all by myself. This was something I was doing on my own, but since this I've been contacted by people who would like to help. So I'm going to be consulting with them to see exactly where to go from here, because I can't leave it as it is now. I'm not going to leave it as it. We need to preserve our freedoms for our children and leave our country in a good state for them, right? It's our responsibility as parents. So, yes, I'll have to do something. I just have to weigh my options now and see what it is that I can do.
Now, I understand that you were a scientist in data acquisition and analysis, but you wrote to me that you spent your early childhood in a socialist government-run nursery school and kindergarten, and yet
right.
When you first had your children, you knew most important in the world was to stay at home with them. So did you send them to preschool?
I did a private 2 hours in the afternoon twice a week kind of a preschool. I didn't send them to government-run preschool because the law says you have to, but it doesn't say it has to be in a government-run institution. So I kept them out of that for as long as possible.
Wow, Canadian law says that you have to send your kids to preschool? I didn't know that.
Well, for grade 5 kindergarten, it's part of the education system that you have to bring your kids into school. Of course, some people do elect to homeschool, but I just didn't think I was qualified in doing that. But if I were, I probably would have.
Can I tell you you're qualified to homeschool? Can I just say that?
Oh, I don't know. I may have the scientific, but not the social skills.
Yeah, yeah, the social skills that be dashed. You don't need social skills. They're your kids. You're absolutely qualified to home. You're a scientist, for crying out loud. You can't do 4th grade? Come on. You can do 4th grade. All right.
I send my...
I just want to ask you one more thing, because you brought this up in your email that you and your family actually were, or I suppose your family were diagnosed with Asperger's syndrome, and so you became an activist for civil liberties, freedom of speech, but also helping people and parents and teachers of Aspies. Tell me just briefly about that before I let you go.
Well, a lot of the times people misunderstand us because we have difficulty with facial cues and body language and so on, but also with learning. So, for example, teaching kids with Asperger's how to write in a way that is accessible to everybody else, for example, school test taking and so on. There are strategies that can be taken that can help children with Asperger's achieve just as much as anybody else. But the approach to teaching kids with Asperger's has to be very different, has to be very fact-based and very structured.
And you don't think that you're qualified to teach your kids?
Oh no, I teach my kids, but
kidding.
I have to. But they have to be able to interact with the world outside of home, and that is something I'm not sure if I'm qualified to teach them.
You're lovely. Thank you so much for coming on the show. I appreciate speaking with you. Where can people find you? What's your website again?
I blog as Xanthippe. Xanthippe was the wife of Socrates and the proverbial nag. I'm actually pretty good at nagging, so I've taken on the handle of Xanthippe, and that is the name under which I blog.
Okay, and that's spelled with an X, everybody. You know what? I'll link to your blog on my Facebook page. Thanks so much for coming on. I'm going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back.